Welcome back to Hi Guys, it's your boy BDR, and I am here with the Legion Paladin overview. Yes, Legion Paladin overview here for you guys. So Legion Paladin was a class that released way back in 2013 when you had to buy, both the Legion and the Paladin Sublime armor shirts from HeroMart, which, I'll show later on. So, I think last year they basically revamped this class, gave this class a buff, whatnot. Now, the only way to obtain this class, you got to access the Book of Lore, click on HeroMart badges. As you can see, this is like my first, HeroMart purchase. If you buy just the Legion t-shirt, you do get the Legion Light of Destiny axe, the Dark Legion Paladin, and the left half of Legion Paladin. Then, if you buy the Paladin t-shirt, you get the right half Legion Paladin, you get the Purified Kalagborg, you get the Golden Kalagborg, and you get the Kalagborg of Cheer. What amazes me about the Kalagborg, this is what people were raging about. This is what people were fighting for at the 2022 limited quantity shop in December. Really? This? Okay, guys, sure. I still can't. I still can't forget that how people were just like harassing people online about the holiday paragon. Like y'all weren't gonna just stop wearing it after like a few days. All right then, let's go over the skills. Your auto attack, desecration. 2-second physical short range one target, granting you a soul in the process. Souls last 10 seconds, stacks to 20, and are used by your other abilities. Damage is dealt based on your attack power and spell power. There we have our rank 1 skill, Blasphemous Battle Axe. 20 mana, 5-second cooldown, hybrid, long range one target. Dealing increased damage for each soul you have while also granting a soul. If you have spirits, applies Defile to your target, reducing their haste, crit, dodge, and outgoing damage by 30% for 5 seconds. Can't miss. Then we have a rank 2 skill, Soul Converter. 30 mana, 5-second cooldown, hybrid, infinite range, 7 targets. Heals you and your allies, then converts up to 10 souls into spirits. Spirits last 10 seconds. Restore 5 mana every second and are used by your other abilities. You and your allies also gain a Spirit Shield, increasing damage resistance by 30% for 10 seconds, always crits. Then we have our rank 3 skill, the Incantation of Sin. 25 mana, 15-second cooldown, hybrid, long range one target. Deals increased damage for each soul that you have while also granting you a soul. If you have spirits, applies focus for 4 seconds, which, wow, this class also has a mini taunt. Also applies Safeguard for 2 seconds, reducing the damage you take based on your attack power. Can't miss. Rank 4 passives, Heretic's Armor, Endurance increased by 100% and damage resistance increased by 30%. And Profane, Haste increased by 10% and hit chance increased by 20%. Also, if you're worried about the gray, I think, got this class to rank 10. As you can see, the class point boost right there. Your rank 5 skill, Shadow Blight. 30 mana, 18-second cooldown, hybrid, long range, one target. Combine your light and dark powers to create a devastating spell, dealing each damage you have for each soul while also granting you a soul. If you have spirits, apply Shadow Blight to your target, a DOT that reduces damage resistance and DOT resistance by 30% for 15 seconds. And finally, the rank 10 passive Soul Infusion, Blasphemous Battle Axe, applies Soul Infusion for 10 seconds, increasing your crit chance by 5% for each soul you have at a time of application. So what we can gather from this class is that you're supposed to stack your souls, and then, you press your 5 for your big nuke. And then, 3 if you want to heal, but it will take away some of your soul stacks. Overall, seems like a pretty good class to me. Alright then, before we get into soloing, let me just show you guys the shirts that you have to buy from HeroMart. Alright guys, so this is, BDR in the flesh here. So you do have to buy 2 shirts in order to get the class. The one I'm wearing right now is the Legion Unreal shirt. Yes. Oh, the texture is so nice. Oh, man, I love this texture. Alright, I'm back here. And the other shirt is the Paladin Sublime shirt. Here's the front and here's the back. Now, both these shirts together cost, $61. No, $60. This is, each shirt costs, $30. So you do have to keep that in mind if you really want Legion Paladin. Legion Paladin is a $60 cost. I don't know why I'm saying 61. I like the texture. I like everything about it. May have to wear this, going out. Pretty sure one of these shirts are probably gonna be, yeah, definitely, going out with both of these shirts. To like movies and stuff like that. It's just I really enjoyed these products from HeroMart. I've always wanted to buy things from HeroMart. Now that I have the chance to, definitely gonna be buying more things from HeroMart in the future. So shout out to HeroMart for making these great shirts. You know what I mean? The texture is pretty nice. Yes. The texture. Yeah. All right. I really do enjoy these shirts. So. Yeah, that's what life is all about, buying things to make your inner child happy. And I was able to do so by buying these shirts and getting Legion Paladin. So yeah, guys, let's move on to combos and enhancements. Alright, people, so here's the build that we're going to be using for Legion Paladin. Ravenous is, as you know, Ravenous, as long as the fight goes on, as more of your opponent's HP decreases, the more damage you do. Lucky crits, Vainglory, more DPS plus our heals will be just as fine. And Vim for 33 less mana consumption. I know some people will probably say, Anima for more damage, but I've used Anima with this class, and I'm not gonna lie, you are gonna do more damage, but you will run into mana issues. That's why I kind of prefer, you know, Vim definitely for solo, definitely if you're going to be soloing bosses by yourself. And, if you are going to run into groups, then I'll kind of say in some situations in groups, you could run, Anima because you are going to be surrounded by support. In this case, Vim for that mana consistency. Alright then, for your combo, what you want to do here is basically 1, 4, and 5, and use 3 you need to heal. Now, obviously, this class has good animations. It's just, this class's damage, this class is like a really good class to pair up with Ravenous. They're 50k already in the first 16 seconds. Ready? Vim's helping it out with mana consistency. Now we're going to use 5 again. 65k right there. We are using a 75% to undead weapon. And, this is going to happen. 77k and then boom. Regenerate, but we do have to stack our souls again, but not just that much. And bam, 86k. Hit the nuke right there. 47 seconds, 690. Oh yeah, this is definitely one of the best soloing classes in the game. This is definitely one of the best soloing classes in the game. It's definitely up there with like the likes of Chaos Avenger, Void High Lord, and Chrono Shadow Slayer and Timekeeper. It's definitely one of the best soloing classes in the game. In terms of soloing, it's one of the best soloing classes in the game. Debuffs, nukes, in the nuke right there, paired up with Ravenous. This is definitely one of the best classes to pair up with the Ravenous enhancement. Alright then, let's move on to farming. Alright then, in terms of farming, yeah, I wouldn't recommend farming with this class. It's single targeting, and all the good farming classes are multi-target, so I would recommend using something else for farming. Alright then, let's move on to survivability. Alright guys, so in terms of survivability, well, it does have a heal to really back it up. Don't get me wrong, but like every time you use your heal, your souls do reset and you have to stack them again. Why not? But other than that, it's like it could hold its own in some situations. It's just that, against like bosses like Lich Lord and Primarch will probably like one shot, two shot it, but it could hold its own, in some soloing situations, especially with the heal that it has. The only problem is you have to like reset your souls. Your souls will reset. Alright then, let's move on to support and then final thought. Alright then, in terms of support, this class can offer some support. You know, We have Blasphemous Battle Axe, which can reduce the target's haste, crit chance, dodge, and outgoing damage by 30% for 5 seconds. And you have Shadow Blight, which can apply the DLT that reduces damage resistance and DLT resistance by 30% for 15 seconds. So in terms of support, not gonna lie, it could offer some support in group fights. Now then, the pros about Legion Paladin are that it's one of the best soloing classes in the game. As you saw right there, its nukes are fantastic. It's one of the best classes to use Ravenous with. And, this class is, pretty easy to use, and it has a good heal. And plus, it has a good group heal. So yeah, that's pretty much all that I have. And also, it has its own mini taunt. Can't forget about that. Yeah, it has its own mini taunt. Alright then, the cons about Legion Paladin are that, one, the biggest elephant in the room, it is a $60 class. You do have to buy 2 shirts, which are like $30 each, so like it's something that you really have to think about before buying. And I'll say the last con, it's heal. When you heal, your souls they do take away some of your souls. So that's pretty much it that I have for cons. Alright then, for my final verdict about Legion Paladin is that Legion Paladin is like one of the best soloing classes in the game. Great nukes, great heals, overall, can be used in ultras, whatnot. I only recommend getting this class if you have if if you have 60 disposable dollars to use to buy this class, because it is a pay to win class after all. So do keep that in mind. If you really want this class, just remember it is $60, so you do really have to think, do you really want this class? I mean, this class is good. That's like, the price tag will really have some people worrying. Overall, that's pretty much been it for the Legion Paladin overview. Make sure to like, share, subscribe for AQ Roads content, and also in the comment section, if you guys do have Legion Paladin, like, how do you guys like tell me your overall thoughts on Legion Paladin? I definitely didn't have the class when it first came out, but now they got its rework and whatnot, and I was able to buy it. Overall, I might enjoy. I'm gonna start using this class more and more, and I may just, it may end up being my favorite soloing class. At the very least, top 3. Alright then, like, share, subscribe for more Hi Guys content, and yeah, Hi Guys out.